Welcome back. In this segment, we will review the latest release, F9, also known as F9, the Fast Saga and Fast and Furious 9. It is a 2021 American action film directed by Justin Lin, who also wrote the screenplay with Daniel Cassie. It is the sequel to The Fate of the Furious, which released in 2017, and the 9th main installment and 10th full-length film released overall in the Fast and Furious franchise. To review the movie, we have film critic James Luxford with us. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So, James, do you think F9 Fast Saga, Fast and Furious, is better than ever before?
I think it does what all good blockbusters do, and which is offer more of everything that you've come to expect from this franchise. The explosions are bigger, the cast are bigger, there are more famous faces, there are more locations around the world. This is a giant global blockbuster. It's one of the biggest franchises in the world at the moment, save for perhaps the Marvel franchise. And so there's a lot of responsibility on the 9th installment. And for me, it really makes an effort to deliver something that's bigger than ever before.
Right, and the CGI-filled max-budget popcorn flick F9 has some crazy non-stop action. Did you find it engaging enough to enjoy as an action movie?
I think so. I think if you are a fan of these movies, this delivers exactly what you would expect from a Fast and Furious film. They have become these huge spectaculars that have made billions of dollars in box office, and there are a lot of people who like them. I think 9 films in, if you were expecting something different, that would be foolish. This works to a formula. It works to a rigid formula that relies on action. It relies on very elaborate plot twists. If you don't like the Fast and Furious films, this will do nothing to change your mind. But there are a lot of people who love these movies, and this plays to that crowd. This plays to the people who want the bigger explosions, who want the bigger plot twists, who want their reality stretched a little bit, if you like. And I think in that sense, this is a success.
Right. And James, the film met with a lot of mixed reviews, dominated by negative reviews mostly. At some point, fans are likely to grow wary of how hard this franchise has to work to top itself. What is your take on that?
I think any franchise that reaches 9 installments that isn't a universe style of franchise like Marvel, which relies on different characters and different genres. Fast and Furious 9 has been a more traditional franchise, 8 sequels on top of the original film. It hasn't deviated much. It changed in the 5th movie from car culture to more of an espionage, global heist thriller sort of franchise. And that's really the only change it made for the last few movies. It stuck rigidly to a formula. I think any franchise is going to show signs of wear after 9 films. As I say, I think if you are not a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, this will do nothing to convince you. But there are a lot of people who do like it, and I think there's a plan in place in terms of running out of steam, as it were. There are rumors that the 10th installment will be the final installment in this current timeline, and I think at the moment, with what Fast 9 has offered and what we can expect from future movies and spin-offs, it looks like it knows that there are more movies behind it than there are ahead.
Right. And talk about some additions in the movie this time, like John Cena, Charlize Theron. What are your thoughts that how did these actors add power to the movie?
I really enjoyed Charlize Theron. She is a little less involved in this film than she was in The Fate of the Furious. In The Fate of the Furious, she was more of the main villain. Here she is advising, she is popping up in certain scenes, almost I suppose like a Hannibal Lecter style role, if you remember Silence of the Lambs. A prominent character, but one that only perhaps pops up intermittently. John Cena is the main villain, and I think he does a fine job. Obviously brought in after the departure of Dwayne Johnson, who went to star in the Hobbs and Shaw films. Coming from a similar background from WWE, he's very intense. He seems to understand what these films involve,
Absolutely.
and I think he's a good match for the likes of Vin Diesel and the rest of the cast.
Right. And James, despite all the negative reviews, the film is still conquering the movie theaters. I mean, it has bagged $70 million only in US. Isn't that surprising?
I think it's doing very well considering the standards, the conditions rather, that we are living under in the global pandemic. It's important to remember that North American box office is half closed, if you like. Canadian cinemas still remain shuttered, and United States cinemas are only operating at limited capacity. So I think given the circumstances, this is huge news. It opened to a pandemic best box office on its opening weekend. No film has done better than that since the pandemic began, and indeed it's the biggest opening since the rise of Skywalker, the Star Wars movie in America back in 2019.
True.
So it is a sign that the biggest movies can still get people into cinemas, even under these circumstances where cinemas can only work at a certain capacity.
Right. Some viewers mentioned that it was a way too long sequel with very unnecessary action scenes. What is your take on that?
I think at nearly 2.5 hours, yes, I don't think any movie needs to be that long. There are, of course, a lot of action sequences crammed in that take up the time, a lot of flashback sequences. We see the early years of Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel's character. For me, there's a lot of scenes in there that perhaps might have been better on the cutting room floor. There's a lot to pack in, however, it's a huge cast, there's a huge amount of action to fit in, and of course a mid-credits scene that we're so used to seeing now that teases something for the future. There's a lot to pack in. It was a little long for me, but I think if you're a lover of these movies, that won't matter at all.
Right. And James, talking about the entire franchise, the movie lost a very important actor, Paul Walker, but surprisingly they continued the franchise without him and didn't make anybody miss him much. I mean, of course, the void is larger than life, but still, this is one of those franchises that did not stop after losing one of their actors, and that is amazing.
It is amazing. I've covered these films for a long time. I've interviewed the late Paul Walker, and he was so integral to not only the story but the spirit of the franchise. I think he embodied what Fast and Furious was about, and so his loss during the filming of Furious 7 was irreplaceable, and they don't try to replace him. His character, Brian O'Connor, still exists in that universe. He's still talked about in Fast and Furious 9. So there are efforts made to keep him at the heart of the story, even if obviously he can't be a part of it. And there are references to him. But it is remarkable how this franchise has kept going through 20 years, different cultural changes, and of course the tragic loss of one of its main characters.
Absolutely. James, great discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That was James Luxford with views on the latest release, F9. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.